This video is sponsored by Wildlife Command Center Coffee. More about them at the end of the video. Hey everybody, it's me, John Ward, and I am here for the very first film discussion video. And my co-host is Donald Wills. Hey Donald, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. And the whole reason for this is that Donald reached out to me and said, hey, would you like to do like a video together or a show together or something like that? And I thought, yeah, well, that could be kind of cool. You know, what would you like to do? And he just said, let's just talk about movies. And it was like, what movies do we talk about? And it was any movies. It was, we could talk about anything. And Star Wars was thrown around. And then we figured that the first video that we do will be the original trilogy. The second video will be the prequels. And then the third video will be like the Disney sequels. And so that's what each video will focus on. And my story with Star Wars starts when I was 10 years old, and Star Wars came out that year. I was born in 1967, came out like 77. And I was stuck in a lot of lines because it was always sold out. You know, they anticipated it to fail, and it did not. Luckily, you know, 20th Century Fox had very little faith in it, except for Alan Ladd, who thought that George Lucas had something. And he had a lot to do with getting this film, you know, produced and made and kind of held the reins on George Lucas. But I do remember as a kid, I think I saw the film 3 times, tried to see it many more times, but it was sold out every time. And Star Wars is the film that made me say, I want to be a filmmaker. I originally wanted to be a police officer like my grandfather. My mom has early drawings of me as a stick figure cop with a gun arresting people. And right after I saw Star Wars, Close Encounters, and Jaws, I said, that's it. And Star Wars was the main one. So I bought all the toys. I got posters. I had the soundtracks. I had the story of Star Wars, which I listened to all the time. And I remember even buying the VHS tape of it when it came out, which was $100. And originally that's what VHS movies cost, were $100 each. Not even widescreen, it was full screen. And so you were missing everything. You know, all the sides were gone. And but loving it, watching it constantly. Even had
today about paying $30 for 4K.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people just moan and groan about how the cost of things today, but
$30 now versus $100 back then. I think we can handle $30 now.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people didn't live, you know, younger people had no idea, you know, and the thing is, you didn't have streaming or, you know, like even like downloading a movie or illegally or legally, you know, you couldn't do it back then. What you had were, and I had them before Star Wars came out on VHS, were drive-in VHS bootlegs. And these only held, the best quality was 2 hours. And so somebody would actually take a camera and drive it into the drive-in and stick it out their window, you know, put it up on their windshield on their dash and record the movies. And then you had to, when the tape shut off, you had to quickly take it out, put in the next one and hit record. And you normally missed maybe about like a minute of film, but it was on 2 tapes because, you know, Star Wars was they were long, 2 hours or over. So that's what I had for a long time, were bootlegs until that VHS came out. And we were living in Marin County at the time. And, you know, flash forward, I remember sneaking out of middle school to go, not even middle school, it was somewhere in between like preschool and middle school. I just left school and went to go see The Empire Strikes Back, and they couldn't find me. I like was missing from class, and they thought I was kidnapped. And no, I was at the movies watching The Empire Strikes Back, and my mom freaked out. And then my mom did get permission when Jedi came out, and I hope she still has it, is the article, and you could see me waiting in line. There's a picture of me in the paper. I'm one of the many people waiting in line to see Return of the Jedi, and that she did give me permission to leave school for. So you could tell that she really cared about my education. And then, and of course, Marin County is George Lucas land, and ironically called, Lucas Valley, which is it's two totally different things. And so I used to work at a video store, a mom and pop place called Broadway Video, and all of the ILM people would come in there. Lucas would come in there. Ben Burt would come in there. Dennis Mirren would come in there. All these guys would come in from ILM, and I would talk to Ben Burt a lot. And I even worked at Barnes and Noble, and Ben Burt and some of the other guys would come in. And if they wrote any Star Wars books, I had them sign them so we could sell them, and which they were nice enough to do. Ben Burt told me some funny stories about Spielberg and stuff like that dealt with Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. We even got to go see, my friends and I, we went not too far up this hill, and we actually watched them filming the scene from Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade with Harrison Ford and Sean Connery, where they're fighting the Nazis on the motorcycles, and they're in the motorcycle with the sidecar. That's all. That's not Germany. That's Marin County up in the hills behind this school. And I got to meet Sean Connery, and he signed a Highlander poster for me. And I was embarrassed about that because I said, I'm sorry, I only have a Highlander poster for you. And he goes, I like Highlander. And so, oh, good. So he just wrote best wishes, Sean Connery, on it. And he was getting some coffee at the time. And we got to see Harrison Ford eating quiche. So that was nice. But that whole area is all Lucas. It's also Metallica. It's also Huey Lewis and the News. It's Barry Levinson. It's Dennis Quaid. It's at the time Sean Penn and Robin Wright Penn. So it's a huge. Grateful Dead would come in all the time to the video store. And when Lucas signed up at the video store that I worked at, a friend of mine and myself were there, and we were watching my coworker, who had no idea, I guess, who George Lucas was or George Lucas looked like. And George Lucas was completely puzzled. He just didn't know what to do because this guy had no idea who he was. And he would be like, name, I'd be like, yeah, they gotta be like, last name Lucas, first name George. Okay, where do you live? Can I see your ID? And then he, gets the ID and puts it all in. And you could see Lucas was completely confused by the entire thing, that he just had no idea whatsoever. That this guy, like, how does he not know who I am? I used to work at the Fairfax Theater out in Fairfax, and Lucas came in to see Spaceballs, and we told him he didn't have to pay. And when he came out of the movie, we asked him how it was, and he goes, it's cute. And then he just kind of continued on. So it's I think that should be, on the poster, it's cute, George Lucas. I used to work at a place called the Cinema. It's a square box that's all bricks, and it's owned by George Lucas and Francis Ford Coppola. And all the big guys would have their movies premiere there. So it'd be Lucas, Coppola, Spielberg, all the big guys would be there. And so we had like Tucker, we had all the, the Star Wars stuff, anything from Spielberg was there. Ridley Scott, Tony Scott at the time, all that stuff would all be at this theater. And they would come down because it was the testing ground for basically like THX and any other sound systems that they were trying out. That would be the theater that they would do. So we would see them every once in a while at the theater. And so, it's just, Marin County was such a great place too. I even went to Skywalker Ranch. A friend of mine worked there, and she was able to once a year bring friends and family. So myself and another friend named Lynn, we went to Skywalker Ranch and spent the day there, ate in their cafeteria, walked around the museum. They grow all their own food there. And it's all made from like homegrown food. There's a huge garden out in the back. We got to watch them do sound editing for, I think it's Autumn in New York, that film with Richard Gere. I think it's Winona Ryder. So it was a great day. I originally had a cap like this that was green and said Lucasfilm across here, but that it did last me years. But then it just slowly was just decaying over me wearing it, and it was just a beautiful hat that I always wore. I'll show. I got a coffee mug that I brought with me too that I got from there that I hope never breaks. But it's so Star Wars has been a huge part of my life, including living in San Anselmo and George Lucas living right on the opposite side of me. And when I moved into this apartment with a roommate, I was just looking out my back window, and all of a sudden there was George Lucas walking around on his deck. And he's just like talking on his phone. He's just kind of walking around and all. And this is 90s. So it'd be around the time of the, the prequels that came out. And I would just see him all the time. And unfortunately, the apartments below him, we had an earthquake, and those apartments were not considered to be stable after the earthquake, and everybody was going to have to move. And Lucas, who lived right above them, and it's a big hill with a road that goes over it into, so it's San Anselmo to San Rafael. And from there, so he goes, I'm going to buy the apartments and I'm going to refurbish them so you guys can live, so you don't have to move. And eventually what they found out is he bought the complex to kick them out because he wanted to control that hill. He wanted that whole area to be fenced off and be his. So I moved before the final thing was heard, but I don't know if he actually did kick all those people out and tear it down, or if he did refurbish it. But that was the idea, was that he was going to save it, and then he was going to kick everybody out and just mow it down. I mentioned San Rafael because San Rafael is where American Graffiti was shot, and on those streets, basically just on the main drag of San Rafael is where I used to go when I was teenager, early 20s, is we would do exactly what American Graffiti did, because that's just what you did in San Rafael. And Lucas lived in Modesto, which wasn't too far away. So all that stuff that you see in American Graffiti is all in San Rafael, and like Petaluma, Modesto, all those areas that I used to go hang out in. So when I watch American Graffiti, it's like, I've been there, I've been there, I've been there, I drove through there, I've been there. Same thing with THX 1138. That was all done in San Rafael at I'm blanking on the name of it now, like the gold. I'm blanking on the name of it, but it's a building that's made by Frank Lloyd Wright, and it's a business building that also has like some jails in it and stuff like that. And it's a beautiful building, and Lucas used it for Gattaca also used it too for that. But Lucas used it for THX 1138, and he also shot in San Francisco. So the Frank Lloyd Wright building is kind of what it's called. I guess it's nicknamed that. So Marin County is just a great place to be. I mean, I started in LA, I ended up in Marin County, and to me, it's just the most awesome place ever. I love San Francisco and all that stuff. So, it's kind of my story on it. So I think it's a lot, but that's Star Wars has been, which is why I take it so personally. When people discuss Star Wars, is for me, it's a very personal thing since I was 10 years old, and living right next to George Lucas and helping him at the video store and saying, yeah, dude, you owe us $50 in late fees, and that's part of my life. So what about you?
I mean, my story, I wasn't living next to George Lucas, but I guess my story really, I never had the opportunities to see any of the rather it's the prequel or the original in the theater. So unfortunately, I didn't. I grew up at the wrong time, I guess. So I caught the movies like as they were coming out, but I wasn't the biggest fan for the longest time. And it wasn't until when I was in school, we were going down. They had like a field trip deal, where we were going down to like some car show. I worked in auto body with Botech in a Botech thing. So they took us all down to a car show. And on the way down, there was a kid that was playing two movies. And the first one was Star Wars Revenge of the Sith. And I never really took the time to watch them. And then while you're sitting there, you have a long ride down, might as well watch the movie, right? So I started watching and I was like, wow, this is really good. I was enjoying it. But then we got to our first rest stop and decided to not continue watching the Star Wars movie, but he put Alvin and the Chipmunks on.
What?
Exactly. The 2011 movie or something like that.
Okay.
I have no idea why they wanted to watch that, but I mean, the kid was, I don't want to sound mean, but he was mentally challenged. So
Okay. All right.
I guess he chose Alvin and the Chipmunks over Star Wars, which I don't know why anyone would ever do such a thing.
I
that's what
don't
happened.
know why they would choose Alvin and the Chipmunks over anything.
But rest assured, I was chanting Star Wars, Star Wars. Well, so after that, I started trying to track down the movies. And keep in mind, before I had a job, I didn't get movies all the time. So if I wanted to see something, I had to wait until I got my first job, which then I was able to buy the Star Wars and all the movies I've always wanted to see. So that's really my story. And I'll get into it here. What really drove me to loving it as a franchise was actually reading some of the novels. And we'll talk about that when we get to like showing our stuff off and stuff.
Yeah, so you're fairly new to Star Wars, let's say within like the last 10 years, something like that.
I would say about the last 10 years, I really started falling in love with Star Wars.
But you knew of Star Wars before that.
I knew of Star Wars. I mean, of course. I mean, I knew Darth Vader was Luke Skywalker's father way before, I mean.
Spoilers! What if somebody hasn't seen Empire Strikes Back?
Well, then they'll never watch them.
Guess that's their tough luck if they haven't seen it yet. How old is that movie? It's like, what, 1984?
It's an old movie. I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone by now knows that, hey, Luke, I am your father.
I would hope so. I mean, it's been parodied enough, so in many different ways. It's possible that more people have seen Spaceballs than they have the Star Wars movies.
I still have not seen Spaceballs. I need to watch that movie. That is one of the ones on my list to watch.
I'm one of the, because of my age, I like old Mel Brooks more. So Blazing Saddles, Young Frankenstein,
Young Frankenstein.
Which one?
And I enjoyed Young Frankenstein.
Yeah, Young Frankenstein. Yeah, it's you. What Mel Brooks used to do is his films would parody an entire genre. So you could take Young Frankenstein and put it right after Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein, and it would still make sense. That, and Blazing Saddles, you could watch a ton of Westerns and throw Blazing Saddles in there and you would know. He did The Producers. I think probably his last good movie was like History of the World Part 1. But a lot of people love Spaceballs.
Robin Hood Men in Tights?
Do not like Robin Hood Men in Tights. I do not. I do not like Dracula Dead and Loving It, because then he started to spoof one movie. He wasn't spoofing Dracula. He was spoofing Dracula, just the film Dracula. He wasn't spoofing like the entire Robin Hood type films. It was just one movie. And I felt he did the same thing with Spaceballs, that he was just spoofing Star Wars instead of spoofing the entire, like sci-fi genre, like he used to do 20 years earlier. But Spaceballs is still fun. It has its moments.
From what I understand, Spaceballs, like, it's like Star Wars, Star Trek, all the space opera, pretty much is what they were making fun of.
I mean,
But
it's
more
the whole.
heavily.
I mean, it's all Star Wars. It's just the first three movies.
That's like the main center is Star Wars.
Yeah, yeah. And for that one, for Spaceballs, when I was working at that Fairfax theater, when we were playing Spaceballs, I was an usher there, and I was standing in there, and we had a full crowd. And right when John Candy, who plays Barf, that he plays that character Barf, and Bill Pullman is the Han Solo character. At the very beginning of the film, when Bill Pullman starts going Barf, 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 and then that's when Barf comes in, who's like the Chewie character. A kid got up, ran into the aisle, like the carpet, and threw up all over the floor.
Oh,
and I could see it, and I'm like, ah. And so the dad comes up and he goes, "Yeah, my son just threw up on the floor." And I'm like, "Yeah, guess what? Here's a mop and a bucket. You get to clean it up. I'm not cleaning that mess up. You obviously brought your kid in when he was probably sick." And the barf just 3 times triggered him. So, but yeah, so it's worth seeing if you like Star Wars and you like the, like the spoofs and stuff. It's
definitely on my list.
Yeah. So, so now you want to get into showing what we have?
Sure.
Okay. So what I have, and this is what I'm drinking out of, since I do love coffee mugs, is I do have the original. Well, it's not an original, but it's for the first Star Wars, A New Hope, which I don't like calling it. If you notice, it just says Star Wars on there. Oh, we could discuss the New Hope thing, but I also want to get Empire Strikes Back and Jedi for these mugs. I can live without all the other ones. And this is the mug that I bought at Skywalker Ranch. Oh, nice. I bought this and the hat. So this thing is really old. But this is, I bought this from their gift shop. Nobody can use this but me. Like, I'm it. I even was like, do I even want to bring this to work? But so I wrapped it all up. Before.
Put it down gently.
Yeah. And then I did, because I just don't like the special editions and all that stuff. I just don't think that's the original Star Wars. Is I did find a torrent, and I know that people hate this, but fuck you, I don't care. This is Lucas's fault for me downloading a torrent. Is I did find the original films as a torrent, and I burned them onto DVD. So I have Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. To my knowledge, these are the closest to the original versions. Yeah. So I downloaded these because from watching some of those videos that I watched on Star Wars before doing this, is that original version doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. That within the year that Lucas brought out Star Wars, in that year, he already went into it to tinker with stuff, because 20th Century Fox said, we need to release this movie on this date. We don't care if you're done or not. And he had to release it by that date, but then he started playing with it. Like the film was a hit. He could do what he wanted, and he started tinkering with it. So yeah. I don't think we'll ever see the original. So I think these are the ones that came right after it. Mm-hmm. And then, and then I have, I also downloaded, because this is before YouTube and stuff, or before YouTube was big, got Star Wars: The Lost Scenes, which now you can see on YouTube. And the Star Wars Holiday Special, which of course now you can see on YouTube. But at the time, none of this stuff was available. So I think these were all torrents also. And then also the original version of THX 1138, because Lucas tinkered with that. And so now you can't find the original unless you get it like on VHS. So once again, I found a torrent of the original version and burned it. And then I did my own kind of like Star Wars extra. It says disc 1. I don't even know if I made disc 2 or maybe it was lost, but these are Star Wars extras that I downloaded off of YouTube to make like a 2-hour compilation of just makings of and interviews and all that. Then one day I was at like Goodwill. I was with a friend of mine, and he looks over and he goes, "John, do you see those over there? Do you see those?" And I look over and I go, "I have a feeling they think those are records, that they're the soundtracks." And found the original widescreen versions that have, so these would be also kind of like those burns. This still says Star Wars. It does not say A New Hope. So these would be the ones that were tinkered with a little bit. And also got Empire Strikes Back. And of course, Jedi. Somebody sold these or gave these away to the they gave them away to the Goodwill. And they were just sitting in the record section. And I think they cost me like $3 each. And these are expensive if you go onto YouTube. I'm sorry, not on eBay. So I mean, I mean, they got even like good looking insides. So now I just have to find which I can at Goodwill, probably find a Laserdisc player. And then lastly, I just picked this up. So Star Wars, The Complete Saga, which has, unfortunately, the special editions of, 4, 5, and 6, but it also has the prequels on it, which I've heard are extended. So it's not the theatrical versions. The theatrical versions, once again, do not exist, even of the prequels. These are this is it. According to Lucas, this is his Bible. This is what's in the Library of Congress. So the originals will never be released. And then picked up Rogue One and Solo. Liked Rogue One. So maybe we can do, when we get done with all 3 trilogies, we can go back and kind of look at these. So that's my stuff. What do you got?
What do I have? Well, I was going to save this for last, but I'll start with this one. I found this at down the road where I live at here. We have called a hobby shop, which is basically they put like movies, video games, comic books, you name it. And they had this, and I just couldn't pass it up. This is the VHS tape.
Nice.
Of the original. This is supposed to be the original theatrical cut. Now, like you said, there he was tampering with it ever since the first viewing. So these are probably like before they started like digitizing it. If you
those are these, but I believe those are not widescreen. Those are full frame.
Probably not.
Because I think the ones that it says on top that they're widescreen. So I believe those are taken from these.
Probably, yeah. But they're probably like full screen or whatever.
But you don't need a Laserdisc player to watch them. You could just watch them on a VHS. If you want, like.
Well, that's the problem. I don't have a VHS. So.
Easy enough to find. Goodwill. They have like a ton of them. They sell them for like $5. Very simple. What else you got?
So I got this. Now, this isn't Empire Strikes Back. I bought this at a Goodwill.
Okay.
And being the dum-dum that I am, I didn't check to make sure the VHS tape was in there.
Uh-oh.
And when I got home, I realized very quickly that it was a Goosebumps VHS tape.
Okay.
And I was like, I guess people at Goodwill don't check. I make sure that this is what it is. They just put it on the shelf, and if you buy it, you buy it.
That's so dumb. It takes 2 seconds to check it. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So what this actually is I found a loose VHS of the Ewoks Adventures.
Oh, okay.
So I own it. Haven't watched.
All right.
I heard it's not that great anyway, but.
Well, it would Ewok Adventure and Ewoks Battle of Endor would be part of our conversation. You haven't seen them, and I haven't seen them in a long time. They're strictly aimed at children. But they look like Star Wars movies. I mean, they look like, I think they were done around, well, obviously around the time of Jedi. So they kind of have that almost that same quality, but just a TV movie. So they're not horrible. I mean, if you're a kid, I could see you liking them, but as an adult, it might be good to have a collection.
I would like to at least see them once. I tried to watch the holiday special, but that was tough.
That's a tough one, and that's also one
That
that
is
can go into our conversation. So, well, we'll get a little into that. So, what else you got?
All right. Well, I have. This is the Disney. I think no, maybe not Disney. It might be. This might be before Disney bought out Star Wars, but I got the Steelbook for A New Hope.
Yes, I believe that's the same time that this came out. So if you didn't want to buy this, yeah, you could buy them separately like that. Yeah.
This, and the main reason I got these because it has the original artwork on the back.
Those are nice looking. I love steel cases.
I'm a big sucker for Steelbook.
What's the front and what's the back?
The front is Darth Vader.
Why wouldn't that be Luke?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
You would think Luke would be on the first one. The second one, then Empire would be Vader, and then the third one, I don't know, Palpatine or the Emperor maybe, or Jabba.
Yeah. Well, I guess they did Darth Vader on the front here because they have the original artwork on the back. So Luke and Leia are right there.
Man, Mark Hamill wishes he could look like that.
And then Empire Strikes Back, which makes even less sense.
Yeah, but okay. I mean, it's good looking. I mean, it looks nice.
I mean, it is what it is. And then that's the original theatrical poster. I believe these are the theatrical posters, right?
Yeah. If not pretty close. Yeah, that's nice looking.
Well, usually what I do is when the Disney ones were coming out, when we had hope that they were actually going to be good. You know how that I to celebrate them as they were coming out, I had these all facing out with this artwork facing out.
It is the better. Yeah.
And then you did guess Return of the Jedi.
See, that makes more sense. That because he's like the focus of. I mean, Luke and him are the focus. But if it should be Luke, Vader. I keep saying Palpatine, which I guess he is, but back then he was just the Emperor.
The Emperor.
Oh, look at Carrie Fisher there. Every teenager's dream. So many teenagers learned what masturbation was when Return of the Jedi came out. They became a man after that.
Became a man. And then I also have Rogue One.
Oh, yours has a different. Does that have a different cover? No. Oh, yours is shiny. Oh, there it is. Okay. All right.
Shiny too.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. And then I also have, this is the last of the movies. I have a fan edit, or I don't know how to describe this, but it's basically a bootleg of 4 and 5.
Okay.
Basically, I guess this guy he went under the name of Adawan. And basically he let me see how he took I guess he did a fan-made version of the movies where he took the edits that made sense, kept them in, but then the original took like some of the ones that don't make sense out.
Okay.
That's the best way I can describe it.
I want somebody to take all that footage, all that deleted scenes that are on YouTube that look great, including even the crappy stuff, like where he meets up with Biggs and all that stuff at that kind of like youth center, and put them back in the movie. I don't care if it's perfect, but I want one long 2.5 hour Star Wars movie.
I was gonna say, with those deleted scenes, I would love to see a extended cut of the movie. And
Yeah.
I'm the type person that we could probably get into this with another episode, but I'm a type person that if I was given the choice between the theatrical cut or a director's cut, I'm leaning more towards the director's cut.
I agree. I agree with that. So,
Because
you got anything else?
yeah, and I have a couple. Now these are not all the novels I have. I wanted to show them off. I have a couple of novels here that I got. This is the first one I read, Darth Plagueis, which Disney. This is canon, whether you like it or not. Because Darth Plagueis was mentioned in episode 3.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So, and then
Well,
this is a trilogy, and these are very important because there was a Sith Lord called Darth Bane, and these are the Darth Bane trilogy.
okay, cool.
Now, the reason I say it's very important is because he is the Sith Lord that established the rule of two, which is one Sith Lord, one apprentice. So if you see like in I believe the prequel trilogy, they go into it more than the original.
Yeah, in Phantom Menace, they talk about that how Liam Neeson, that his I'm going to completely mangle what it Qui-Gon. There we go. Is what I'm trying to say. That that he can't have Obi-Wan and Anakin. Yeah. So yeah, that is brought up. So
that is because before in this particular story, there was like multiple Sith. Like the Sith was like an army at one point, and he basically wiped out the entire Sith nation, the entire Jedi thing, and I forget how he does it, but it's really cool. If anyone wants to read a novel, check those out. And one I know that might be up your alley.
Okay, what's that?
I know you like horror.
Yes.
Death Troopers.
Oh, I love that cover. That cover is awesome.
All right, I'm gonna explain what this is, and the first thing I know you're gonna say is, "Huh? Star Wars with zombies."
Huh?
Star Wars with zombies.
I love it.
And it's actually really good. So this is if you want to check this one out. They did a prequel. Not so much. But that's all I have.
I'll have to look into that. So obviously the novels mean something to you then, because you're just saying that you're just showing us a few of them.
Yeah, like I said, I have more, but I mean, if I showed you all of them, we would be here for 2 hours. And we have 2 hours, but these are the ones that introduced me to.
I like that one. Or
yeah,
where's my finger going? I like that one. Yeah, that looks cool. I love that cover.
I recommend that one.
Okay, well then it must. I mentioned before we started this that I watched a whole bunch of like Star Wars. Like documentaries and stuff like that. A lot of these were not official. They were basically talking a lot about the original trilogy, and then I watched a bunch on like the prequels, and then I watched some on the Disney sequels. And one in particular was very interesting because it was basically the fans versus Disney. And how Kathleen Kennedy, and this is where my question is of does this piss you off, is that Kathleen Kennedy said, your books don't count. They're not canon.
Oh, yeah. That sets me off for 2 reasons. One, George Lucas was involved in every single novel, all the way back from the Timothy Zahn wrote the very first Star Wars novel. And there's like 150 novels, keep in mind. That's not even counting the comic books, the little short stories that they made. and George Lucas was involved in almost every single one of them. As a matter of fact, the Darth Plagueis one I showed you first, he created a subspecies just for Darth Plagueis.
Well,
Darth
and that
Plagueis
was
is called.
yeah, that was his idea. Was he in the interviews I watched with him? He said there is no Star Wars sequels. It's the original
Exactly.
trilogy, it's the prequels, and then the comic
That was
books,
it.
the books, the Clone Wars, which he was a part of, the original Clone Wars, which he was a part of. You know, Ewok Adventure, all that stuff counts. That was his plan, was to video games. That is what continued
It was like
the
a
saga.
secondary genre.
Now,
From what I've seen, the books were considered like they called it the expanded universe. And another thing that ticks me off is they call it Legends now. This is what they call it now. It was called the expanded universe for years until 2014 when they decided, hey, all those books that you read, they're no longer canon.
that's Kathleen Kennedy. You can thank her for the Legends universe now. Yeah. They're trying to get the the Disney sequels to be legend now. Because they're trying, they want to reboot the last three movies and do them over again with Lucas involved. But I have to say, before the three that you mentioned, like where you said like they were the first books, there was one before that. So back in the day, they did. Alan Dean Foster wrote Splinter of the Mind.
Yes,
which was going to be Star Wars 2. We all were told it was Star Wars 2. And Lucas admits now, if Star Wars didn't make enough money, but it made, it made money, but it didn't make money. Yeah. He was going to make Splinter of the Mind because it was much cheaper. And that was going to be the original sequel to Star Wars. Yeah, that's it. So that was yeah, and then of course remember there was also solo books. So there was Han Solo, Han Solo's Revenge. There were like 3 Han Solo books. But as far as the sequels go, yes, the 3 that you mentioned were the first ones, I believe, that were sequels, like official sequels.
The one Timothy Zahn wrote was, as a matter of fact, I have it right here. It's called Heirs of the Empire. This was the first one that takes place after, after the Empire was done, demolished, and there's a new threat in town.
Well, and that's where everybody learned about these different characters. Like nobody really knew who Boba Fett was. Nobody knew who like IG-88 was. Nobody knew who Bosk was. And then all of a sudden we got that book that I think it's called Tales of the Bounty Hunters. And it's all different stories about the bounty hunters. And that's how we learned a lot about this. There was even a comic book that came out with Boba Fett escaping from, the pit of Sarlacc, where he uses his jetpack and he flies out. So there's been a lot of stuff. I did watch Mandalorian, the first season. I didn't see the second one, and I haven't seen Book of Boba Fett. But
I haven't seen the entire Mandalorian, but I've actually enjoyed what I've seen.
Yeah, I did watch Luke coming back.
So doggone cute.
Yeah, I saw on YouTube Luke coming back and getting Baby Yoda, but that's about it. That's as far as I went with it. I didn't. I have a huge protest about Disney. And so we can probably get into that more when we talk about the Disney sequels, but it's a very political thing for me. And so I refuse to subscribe to Disney Plus. I will not. If George Lucas did it, then I'm fine with it, but I won't. I don't want to have anything that Kathleen Kennedy might have had her grubby little crap stained hands on. So I think that she should just be fired. So, but this isn't about those. So let's talk about Star Wars, the original Star Wars. Before what do you remember about Star Wars? What do you like about it?
I mean, it's just the lore. I mean, a lot of the thing I love about and I'm gonna be referencing the expanded universe a little bit because there's so much that we never got answers to, and that's what I loved about the like George Lucas's vision. He wasn't, like solely like, hey, I will let it's all me. I can't, I mean, it was about him, but you know what I mean. But he would let people like write stories in his universe, and that's what I loved about it. But he always, I think I read somewhere that he was always on there saying, "Okay, let me proofread it before you even put it out."
Yeah, it's for me, it's classic storytelling. I never really read any of the books. I read when I was younger the comic books, like when those started up. I did read those, and they even had like the female Darth Vader. I remember a lot of that stuff. I think I collected a lot of stuff basically up until Jedi, and then a little into Jedi, I collected things, but I was just at that point kind of too old for toys and comics and all that stuff, or at least I thought I was. And so I just didn't really do much with it. So for me, the expanded universe didn't really exist. It was, so when somebody would tell me, oh, well, Boba Fett came from this planet and Boba Fett, I have no idea what you're talking about. That to me is not Star Wars. I go off of the movies, and Lucas never explained it. No, but he did. It's in the, nope, I did not read the book. It has nothing to do with it. And I'm wrong because it does. So,
What I think it is the fact that George Lucas could only do so much within the 6 movies. And the expanded universe is really for people that want more. They want to dive more into like the lore of it. They want to go like, for example, there's a couple of Darth Maul books that they have. I really enjoyed those ones, because not gonna lie, Maul was like one of my favorite Sith Lords of the prequels. I mean, Darth Vader is number one, but Maul was just a close second for me.
Maul's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's for a whole different episode.
Yeah. We'll discuss that when we get to the prequel.
Yeah, I think everything it's kind of like it's like the Beatles. Everything at that moment clicked and came together. And even though the Beatles were flawed, even though we don't like to think they were. But it was that moment. It was those 4 guys, if they didn't kick Pete Best out and Ringo Starr was not a Beatle, would they still be the Beatles? It's that exact moment. And Star Wars came at that exact moment where everything was depressing. It was just, they went from a very kind of dystopian future and also like an independent feature, with stuff like Easy Rider and films like that. And now all of a sudden this giant comic book comes on screen that adults can appreciate because they remember Flash Gordon, they remember Buck Rogers, they remember, the Tarzan serials, they remember all that stuff. And then you got the kids that absolutely love it. And Lucas was smart that he knew I need to get the toys. I need to get that back end of the toys. So he didn't take a lot of money up front for that. He was all about the toys, and he was absolutely correct. I remember that they didn't think the movie was going to do well, and they brought out, and you can see the commercials of it actually on YouTube, is they didn't have any toys. So what it was is that you could buy, it was a rectangle box, and in it were empty spaces. And they had a few toys, and you could basically order this empty box. And then as they made the characters, they would mail them to you, and you could fit them in this box. That was like the greatest thing ever. What kid would be happy on Christmas to get an empty box? But we loved it because we knew it was going to be filled with Star Wars figures. And that was awesome. And that's in lightsabers that were just flashlights with a plastic tube on them, that once you hit them, they would just fall over. They would just break in half.
Or my favorite ones were the ones that would you would hit it and it would just start blinking.
Yeah.
Because you hit them so hard. Because hey, when we were kids, at least I was hard on my toys. I didn't. I played with them like I was. I would make this guy fight this guy, and then they were outside. They went. I'm telling you, some of the toys I have, I look at them now. It's like, ooh, I was abusive, man.
Yeah, I mean, because you didn't think about keeping them as collector's items. As I got older, I did. Like I had the Falcon toy, I had the Death Star, I had the twin cloud like vehicle that went through the air. I had the land speeder. I had a bunch of them. I had a whole bunch of toys, figures, and all that, and I had them all in boxes. They're all used, some of them broken. The stickers were peeling off and stuff. But when I got to an age, I was like, I'm not into these anymore, but I think they might be valuable one day. And so I put them all into boxes and into storage. And then my mother didn't tell me when I moved out that she gave them to my cousin, who then destroyed them. And I never saw them again. And I was furious at her for doing that. She's like, well, I thought that he would like them. I didn't know. And because my mother wasn't a collector of anything.
Yeah.
Boyfriends, but that's about it. So, I could have murdered her for that. I mean, that was even Luke Skywalker with his broken lightsaber would still be worth something.
Yeah. I mean, I have a similar thing with some of these older like video games and stuff. My mother was the same way. She was usually get rid of the boxes and stuff. And now I look at what these games go for with the box and manual, and you're like, oh, I could only go back in time and tell her, don't throw away the boxes.
Oh yeah. I remember buying on Star Wars at the they used to have an area at the concession stand that was all merchandise that you could buy. And I bought the program. That's when programs for movies were coming out. And I bought the program, and then I bought the Star Wars, I think it's just called the Star Wars book or the Star Wars storybook. And it was all about the making of, and you saw behind the scenes and photos and all that stuff. And I had that stuff once again, it was like in a box. And then my mom's boyfriend at the time decided to put them into a shed, a poorly made shed, and it rained. Ooh. And bugs got to them and they were all eaten up. And I freaked out because for a while I went to go live with my grandparents in Marin County, and my mother stayed in Rohnert Park, which is about 45 minutes up. It's in wine country. And they took that stuff and just, even though I asked them to keep it in the closet, they put it in the shed and ruined it. So, when people say, George Lucas, you ruined my childhood, maybe I should say my mother ruined my childhood because she got rid of it, destroyed all my Star Wars stuff. So what are some scenes what are like your favorite scenes from Star Wars? I mean, I could name, Luke looking off in the distance at the two, like at the two moons that are up, and there's so many good scenes. What are some scenes that you like?
I mean, the classic is the one where Greedo shot first, right?
That, and they altered that. They changed that to Han shooting first, which is such a cheat. It looks really bad too. I mean, it looks horrible.
I mean, if you think about it, Han didn't shoot first. Han only shot.
Well, Greedo shot with his mouth because he was, he had an attitude.
He was running his mouth. But
yeah.
If you look at, they wanted, that whole thing with, Greedo shot first. It's just like, come on. The whole thing of Han Solo was supposed to be that he's a greedy guy. He only cares about himself.
He's a rogue. Yeah.
That's all he cares about. That is his character. You can't just turn it around to make it like, oh, he shot himself. No.
Because Lucas wanted to appeal to children more. Kind of like how Spielberg changed E.T. and the FBI guys don't have guns. Instead, they have walkie-talkies. Which makes no sense that instead of aiming this, he's aiming a walkie-talkie. Yeah, it makes no sense at all. And that was the whole thing with Solo's growth. That was his, his character development, is that he went from a selfish, greedy rogue to helping blow up the Death Star.
Exactly. I mean, it's his redemption arc.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I don't care about nobody, but then to like, hey, wait a minute. I actually do care about these people, and then him changing, having a change of heart, and coming back to help Luke and them blow up the Death Star.
Yeah,
that is one of my favorite scenes right there.
That is the original the original version of that before Lucas tinkered with it was by far the best, because I was watching from that channel that I gave you, that Star Wars channel. I forget what is Star Wars Only, maybe is what it's called. They do videos on all the changes throughout the years, and there are, for basically the original 3, there's at least 5 different versions of the film that either came out in the theater or on like VHS, Laserdisc, DVD, Blu-ray. But in between those, there's more tinkering. And they do talk about the Solo Greedo scene. And I believe they said there's like 5 different versions of that. If you include the very first one, all the way up to this, there's like 5. And then Disney. Oh yeah, and then Disney even did their alterations. So in 2019, they even tinkered with it. So there's really like 6 different versions of each movie, which which is basically almost all of them. So it's the whole thing. I mean, it's funny that even George Lucas wears a shirt that says Han shot first, because I think he realizes what a mistake that is and how shitty it looks. And each time they showed like the different versions of that, it was bad, and it was still bad all the way. Like the few different versions that they showed, like nothing really looked better. Including that like Jabba the Hutt scene for like the special editions. So it's well, what would be your favorite Star Wars if you had to rank them? What would you do? Just the first 3.
The first 3, okay. I have to say, my favorite would be Empire Strikes Back. My second favorite would be Return of the Jedi, and then my third favorite would be Star Wars, or what we now know it as A New Hope.
Okay, so I'm almost the same. So mine would be Empire, Star Wars, then Jedi. So, and so why do you pick Jedi over Star Wars?
I mean, I just think like the whole I don't know, it's the one I've seen the most of, the Return of the Jedi, and Empire Strikes Back. I just feel like that one had the best story out of all 3 of them. I mean, they're all equally as good. I'm not saying none of them are bad. The first one, like A New Hope, kind of just it's introducing the characters, and the first one's always like the slower of the 3, and then the second one's like we're starting to get the more of the story. We get the infamous scene, Luke, I am your father. We get all these like Han getting what is that stuff called?
Carbonite.
Yeah, I'm bad with names. I admit that.
So am I. I mean, it does, and it's I think you can kind of tell what was going on kind of behind the scenes, because the original Star Wars, you basically had 2 people that controlled Lucas. I'm going to say 3 people that controlled Lucas. And that is Alan Ladd, who is running 20th Century Fox, Gary Kurtz, who is one of the producers on it, and Marsha Lucas, who was the main editor on the film. Because from what I understand, Star Wars, the Lost version, is horrible. And basically she and another guy got it down to what we know. They cut out all that stuff that's in the deleted scenes. And then you add also, Kurtz, who was on Lucas as a producer, and then Alan Ladd at the same time. So when you have Empire Strikes Back, then you also have Irving Kershner, who came in, and you had Lawrence Kasdan, who was one of the writers. And so now you have even more people that are controlling Lucas. And Irving Kershner was one of those directors who was like, he's not going to put up with this. Lucas, this is not a good idea. He would be very vocal about these things, which is why Empire is the best one. And then all of them left for Jedi, and Lucas got a director that he could basically control. And Lucas was all about the toys. And all these guys, the Alan Ladds, the Gary Kurtz, and all these guys left. And now he was fully in charge, which is why, in my opinion, Jedi is the worst of the three, because he was more interested in toys and not story, and characters. You can even tell that Harrison Ford is bored as hell in the movie. I mean, it's like probably one of his worst acting jobs. And he's even said that he believes that Han should have died, when he fell out of the carbonite, that he should have been dead. But Lucas, he didn't want to do that. He wanted to continue everything, because you have to have loss. If you don't have loss, then what's the point? Which is why I always thought, as the Falcon was shooting out of the Death Star, and Lando and like the French guy next to him are going, woo, woo, is all of a sudden they should have been engulfed by a fireball, and the Falcon just explodes. And you can, all of a sudden, Han goes I just felt something. What the hell? Maybe he has a little bit of the Force in him, or Leia goes what just happened here? And I think that, but if you have everybody live, I mean, that's the good thing about the original Star Wars, is Ben dies. That's you have to have that happen for Luke to take that journey.
Yeah.
And then in Empire, granted, nobody dies in Empire. A lot of the Imperial guys do, with Vader strangling them. But, it's one of those things where, Luke he becomes a man and he loses his hand and learns about Vader being his dad. Even though at that time we all thought, is that real? Because Vader says he'll either join us or die. So, as far as we know, Vader's lying. And then, in Jedi, of course, it's confirmed. So, that's kind of my whole thing on it is. And I don't believe that Lucas had a story for all three movies, because he wouldn't have had Leia making out with her brother if he knew that in part 3, that was his sister. And so I don't think that because I've read Journal of the Wills. I mean, you can find it online, and it's basically Phantom Menace. It's all about trade embargo and government, and it's really freaking boring. And so you could see why they told him, you got to take this thing that's like this thick and make it like that thick. And that's how we got, Star Wars, because all that stuff in Phantom Menace at the beginning is freaking boring. I mean, they're just talking about trade negotiations, how dull.
I mean, spoiler alert, that was my least favorite of the prequels, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, what do you think about the whole thing about, because obviously Vader, this was never planned, because why would Obi-Wan say, oh, Vader killed your father, and then in Jedi is like, well, in a manner of speaking, Vader did kill your father. I mean, obviously, Lucas didn't have a real plan. He had a better plan than what Disney did, but he obviously didn't have a solid plan. What's your take on that?
Well, the way I interpreted it, now keep in mind, this is with the knowledge of the prequel trilogy, where they kind of wrap it up, where Obi-Wan did take Leia allowed Leia to go with the I forget what the place that she went to, and he took Luke to his uncle's place. So
Yeah,
I'm
thanks.
with that knowledge in mind, it makes sense. But without that knowledge, it doesn't make sense. But maybe Luke, maybe he had a plan all along, and we just don't know about it, or maybe he just winged it.
So here's my question. I've brought this up to other people. Is Skywalker like Smith? So if Smith is the most common last name on Earth, is Skywalker the most common name in the Star Wars universe? Because if Vader is searching for Luke Skywalker, why can't he just type into his Star Wars computer, search for Luke Skywalker? And then all the Skywalkers on all the different planets would show up, and then he just goes to those different planets.
That I never thought about, to be honest with you. I don't think that Skywalker is a common name or anything, because then I don't know. I don't think does Luke even know his last name was Skywalker in the first movie?
Yeah, I would assume. Yeah.
Because they
Yeah, because he goes, when he goes to rescue Leia, he goes, "I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you."
Oh, okay. Well, it's been a while since I've seen the original trilogy.
So then that brings up, like, is Uncle Owen and Aunt Beru, are they named Skywalker? Because if Luke is growing up and his name is Skywalker and their last name is Jones, he would probably be like, "Why is my last name different?" And if Anakin was always Skywalker, why wouldn't he then just be like, "All right, search that planet Tatooine, pull me up anybody whose name is Skywalker. Ah, look, there's those two people, living on that farm. Let's go down and get them. They may know where Luke is."
I mean, didn't they technically do that when they killed his uncle and his aunt? And they thought maybe they killed him in the process?
No, they didn't know that Luke was there. They were just going from place to place because they were looking for the droids.
Okay. Oh, it's yeah. I'm blanking on some of the story now. I should have watched these before I did this.
I've watched them so many times that I didn't need to rewatch the originals. I will need to watch the prequels and the Disney ones again. But yeah, I know. I'm actually looking forward to talking about those. So there's just, because that's what I've told people is the original Star Wars trilogy is heavily flawed, horribly flawed. I mean, story-wise, everything is so flawed. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, some of the dialogue they say, normal people would not say. Some of the things they do, normal people wouldn't do. Continuity is so bad. Like you have to question the Jedi ghosts. So Ben gets hit by the lightsaber, and his clothes are still there. They just fall. And then in the next one, Ben is there as a ghost, but he sits on a tree limb and he's wearing the same clothes. Why does a ghost need to sit on a tree limb? Okay. All right, whatever. You think he'd just fall right through it, but okay, I guess there's weight to ghost. Same in Yoda, if I remember correctly, in Jedi, completely disappears. Like, clothes and everything. Just the blanket falls.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
why does Yoda's clothes disappear, but Ben didn't? I mean,
like you just said, probably it wasn't it wasn't all planned. Not as bad as the Disney version, but I I mean, I think that's the biggest problem when you have multiple directors doing a story. Each director wants to do their own thing. You know what I mean?
But it all comes from Lucas. I mean, it's all his.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe he had the plan and he didn't think it through, and he's like,
I
"Oh,
I I, I think he was determined. He was hungry. He was young. He needed to pay rent or his mortgage, and
mhm,
he needed to get Star Wars made.
yeah,
He already had two films before that, THX and American Graffiti. That American Graffiti was a hit, but THX bombed. But he wants to make more like THX type movies. That was his thing, not American Graffiti. That was suggested to make more of a commercial film so he could get Star Wars made. So he's hungry. He wants Star Wars made so he can make more like THX movies. And then he's on this huge thing that he makes Empire Strikes Back, which is great. And by Jedi, I think he was so burnt out and was so tired of Star Wars that he just didn't care. Because one of those videos I watched, there was an interview with the director, like at a magazine. They talked to him later, who said that he could barely direct the film because Lucas was always standing right behind him.
yeah,
So whenever he would set something up, Lucas would be right there doing it.
yeah.
But he's like, how can I direct this film if Lucas is always there? But I think that it also kind of shows that Lucas was just like, he just wanted to get it done. It's like, we can't do 8 takes with an Ewok. We can only do 2 takes with an Ewok. Let's just get this done. It's all about the toys, man.
I mean, with such a huge success as Star Wars, I think the biggest problem is that him, trying to live up to the expectation of Empire Strikes Back and the original Star Wars, and I think maybe that might have got to him. You know what I mean? I mean, it's a possibility, and he was just like, "Let's get it done. Let's get it done." And if I remember correctly, wasn't there a lot of problems on set with Return of the Jedi?
I mean, from what I understand, is like Carrie Fisher allegedly, but she has kind of admitted it, that she says that she doesn't remember shooting the film because she was so high, like she was just like wasted on coke, which is how she could only keep that figure that she has in there. Harrison Ford didn't want to be there.
He wanted to die like since episode 5.
Yeah, I mean which is why I believe that's the only reason why he came back for Force Awakens. They said, "Oh yeah, you die," and he goes, "Well, it's about time." So I mean, there's also just a fair amount. I mean, you could tell how much they shot just with all that deleted footage, and I would have liked to have seen all the Biggs stuff put back into the movie in some way. I think would be cool, so we could just kind of have that story of Biggs. And that includes from the beginning where Luke's at the moisturizers and he can see the battle in outer space, up through that scene with them like at the youth center, up to them with Biggs at the end, when they're actually getting into like the X-Wings and stuff. I would have loved to have seen that stuff in Empire Strikes Back with the Wampas, all that stuff where the Wampas escaped when the Empire came down, and they're that
was really cool.
Yeah, I mean that would have been great, but Lucas just said they looked awful, like they didn't look good. I mean, it's just great seeing.
They looked awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Lucas just said that he thought that they looked bad, and that I love that scene of they're running through, our main people are running through one of the shafts, and C-3PO stops at the door and pulls the warning label off. I mean, how evil is that? I mean, that is such a great C-3PO moment. And then right behind them, the stormtroopers see the door. They can hear something in it. And when they open it, the Wampa's arm comes out and grabs the stormtrooper. I would love to see, they don't have to be official, but it would be nice to see that stuff. I love in Jedi, there's that stuff with Luke at the very beginning where he's outside of Jabba's palace and he's like creating his own lightsaber. And he's like going to put it into R2, and he could hear Vader, and like Vader's in like his little cubicle kind of talking to Luke. I mean, that stuff is cool. The sandstorm that was cut, after they escaped from Jabba's palace or the skiff. I mean, I would have loved it. Why was that cut out? That's such a cool scene.
I mean, that's how I felt about when you sent me the deleted scenes for A New Hope. I mean, just like you said, seeing the things with Big, I think that would have made. I mean, I guess the in the special editions, that I guess the newer ones, they added that scene, the scene at the end where he meets up with them again before they go off to fight to bomb the Death Star. They added that back in, which I would have loved for them to do, is to put the originals, the first scene of him like saying
Right.
goodbye to him, and then like that would have made that scene so much more impactful. And it would be like, oh yeah, he gets to see his friend again. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it would have been like, oh, he was sad that he left, and then all of a sudden he sees him again at the end of the movie. And they have their, hey, friends, we're friends. I get to see my friends again. I think that would have made it so much better. That's why I said I would love to have had an extended cut or a director's cut of all of these movies. I mean, because some of, like you just said, all these deleted scenes, I feel like really could have improved the movie a lot.
I mean, Lucas will never do it, and I don't think Disney would ever do it. But I mean, you could put them back together, kind of like the Schneider cut of Justice League, and put them together. They don't have to be perfect, and just stream it. You don't have to do physical copies. Just stream it so people could see these versions. Because I remember when I was a kid and seeing just Star Wars on the big screen, and every once in a while, Luke's mentioned this guy named Biggs. And then he's at the very end, because his X-wing gets damaged, and he goes, "Biggs, get out of here! You're no use." And he's like, "I'm out of here." And they're like, "Oh, that's Biggs, but who's Biggs? What is a Biggs?"
Exactly.
And then we got a little bit more in those special editions. Like, okay, that's okay. We got a little bit more with Biggs, but it would be nice to have something that's a little more complete. Well, what did you think of the special editions?
I mean, they're nice to a certain extent, but I would love to see. I would love it if they would just keep it the original way. I mean, like the original way they were intended to be seen. I mean, my biggest problem with the special editions are the fact that they keep like they add more and more and more, like to the point to where, like in the original cut of A New Hope, or Star Wars as it was first called, um, Jabba wasn't even there. It was a dude. It was a dude walking around
Yeah,
talking
it
to
was like an
Han.
Irish guy. Yeah.
Yeah, and that wasn't Jabba. That was, I mean, or maybe it was actually supposed to be like Jabba's henchman or something like that.
No, it was if you watch those scenes, that's Jabba, but they in one of these videos they mentioned that they had the guy playing him, but the intention was always to put an alien over him. But it wasn't meant to be a slug. It was just meant to be like an alien with 2 feet, so they could follow what he was doing. It wasn't until the special editions where they added in Jabba because of Jedi. And that's when they had to do that stupid scene of Han like stepping on Jabba's tail, instead of just walking around him, which looked awful. But I wouldn't have even minded. I mean, I guess because they made Jabba a lizard, they had to change it, or a slug, but they had to change it. But that Irish guy kind of looked like a thug. He was in costume and everything.
That's what I thought he was at first. Because when they showed it, they didn't really. I don't remember him really calling him Jabba by name in the original. I don't know how. I don't know if that was a change they did.
No, he does call him Jabba when he Jabba and his henchmen are already at the Falcon, and Han and Chewie walk in, and he calls him by name, and he's like, "Han, old boy, Han, my son, type of thing, where's my money?"
In the special editions, they have Jabba like speaking in his native tongue, so they actually have him like cut out So he's not speaking English in the special.
Yeah, what is he? He's Japanese or something like that. Is what they call it.
Whatever the language is. It was like a.
But a lot of those subtitles are actual dialogue that the guy said back in the day. It's almost word for word it. Okay. And to me, the only film that actually works with the special edition, I think, is Jedi. Because the Pit of Sarlacc look crappy, you know, in the original movie. I like the tentacles.
My biggest problem is when R2-D2 is in the desert and you see him like hiding behind the rocks. With the special edition, they put so many rocks in front of.
Oh, that's in the original Star Wars. Yeah.
Well, they CG'd more. They added more to it.
They added even more. Watch those videos that I sent you.
I know. I see.
Yeah,
I've seen that, and that's what I was saying.
It's like
they added so much to the point.
How would R2-D2 get in there?
Exactly. How did R2-D2 even get in there? How?
Originally, he's in like a little cave.
Exactly.
Now he's. How did he get in there?
He somehow wiggled his way in.
George, even though I really like THX 1138, I even like the director's cut. That's fine. You know, I just wish both versions really existed today. And I loved American Graffiti. I absolutely loved it. And of course, I'm biased on that because I was raised in that area. Star Wars, if Lucas had his own way with the original film, would have been a disaster, an absolute disaster. For some reason, I don't know why THX and American Graffiti were so good. And because he also had Walter Murch edit. So that's the other person I was trying to think of. So Martha, it was actually three people. So Marshall Lucas, Walter Murch, who's one of the greatest film editors ever. He's worked a lot with Coppola. He edited Apocalypse Now and many other movies. And so he came in. So they had three people, and Marshall Lucas was a respected editor. Walter Murch, like I said, is one of the greatest editors ever. He had to call in these three people to save that movie. Wow. So if that didn't happen, it would have been a disaster. So it's like, how good it really is Lucas then? And especially if you have, even then when you go to Empire Strikes Back, I believe Alan Ladd was still on that one. I think Gary Kurtz was still on that. Irvin Kershner, the director. Then you had Lawrence Kasdan as the writer. And Lee, I would say like Lee Brackett, I believe. And she was on there too. And she wrote, I guess, like a lot of the Carrie Fisher stuff or Princess Leia stuff. But by the time that you get to Jedi, a lot of these people have left. Yeah. And I think that's like the true George Lucas movie is Jedi, because it's such kind of a mess. So then when he gets to do his special editions, now we're getting the true George Lucas, because now nobody's restraining him because he still had 20th Century Fox with Jedi, letting him know. Mm-hmm. And of course, as we know, it was originally called Revenge of the Jedi. And I remember, that the theater even had up that poster for Revenge of the Jedi. I knew this guy. Oh my God. I wanted to cry. This is when I was working in the video store. He comes up and says, I have a Revenge of the Jedi poster. Would you like it? I'm like, fuck yeah. Because those things were like hundreds of dollars. Yeah. So he brings it into me. He had cut the white border off of it and glued it to the back of like that, not cardboard, but like that, the like foam cardboard. So you could hang it on the wall. And I'm like, you just ruined like a $500 poster. Why? I almost cried.
Oh man.
Yeah. And I kept it for a while, and then I just gave it to somebody else because I couldn't. I just couldn't do it anymore. In fact, I think I gave it to my friend Cliff, who's the guy who runs Scream Factory, the DVD company. I think I gave it to him. I don't know if he still has it anymore, but yeah, I mean, even the Revenge of the Jedi, I did have. I went to school with a girl whose dad worked at Lucasfilm, and she gave me a sweatshirt that said Revenge of the Jedi on it. And it's the same lettering and all that we know from Return of the Jedi. It just said revenge. Like an idiot, I fucking cut the sleeves because it was long sleeve. And I wanted to make it short sleeved. So I cut it. So who am I to yell at the Revenge of the Jedi poster guy? I just cut up a Revenge of the Jedi sweatshirt.
I mean, the decisions we make are the decisions we regret.
Oh yeah. But now this is it. I mean, these are the versions of Star Wars. This is what Lucas thinks are the real movies.
Yeah.
And except for what Disney, did with some tinkering, these are the official versions. I think on one of those videos, they said that Lucas had one screening of the original Star Wars, like at Lucasfilm or something like that for employees, like one. And they say that actually Star Wars, that lost cut, the work print that has all that deleted footage in it is at like Lucasfilm. They have it. It's just sitting there, but he won't release it. I don't get it.
You must not like money. You must not like money, man.
No, because think about it. You could, if Disney maybe offered him money, or back when he still owned the rights, if he released a 3-disc version, maybe of each movie, or at least just of the first film, you could have the original, you could have the Star Wars The Lost Cut, then the theatrical version, then the special edition. That way you could watch.
I would have bought it.
Yeah. I mean, how great would that have been? I mean, even
awesome.
Yeah, I mean, Spielberg did E.T. that way. He did the special edition and the real version when it came out on Blu-ray. That's like the only reason why I bought it, was because it had both versions. And if I really only wanted the theatrical version, but I'll take the messed up special edition that he did. Why not?
Freeze, walkie-talkies, freeze.
Oh my God, what a horrible idea. And that's the worst thing about parents, especially filmmaker parents, is once kids get involved in their lives, all of a sudden their brain like turns to mush. And
I mean, when you think about it, it was the military. What did you expect them to have?
Well, I mean, yeah.
To have guns.
Well, look when Spielberg made Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Dark, grisly, kids being tortured, hearts being pulled out, and then all of a sudden he gets a frigging kid because he marries Kate Capshaw, and they like adopt kids and stuff. And now all of a sudden it's got to change ET. I got to change ET because I'm now a kid. It's also the same thing. Like Angelina Jolie does Tomb Raider, then she adopts a whole bunch of kids, and then we get Tomb Raider: Cradle of Life, which deals with kids. Kate Beckinsale and did the same thing with Underworld. All of a sudden she has a kid, and now a kid is involved, which she has to like save a kid. Mila Jovovich with Resident Evil, all of a sudden a kid is involved once she has a kid. It's like stop. We understand you're now a parent, you're a mom or a dad, but just because you are doesn't mean that you need to go alter your movies or make sequels about kids where maybe you have an interest but nobody else does. Tomb Raider's fun. Cradle of Life is, but Cradle of Life,
it was all right. It wasn't. The original one was great. The remake now. You ever see the remake?
I like the remake. Yeah,
the remake was good.
I like the remake. But like, I have the DVD double feature of Tomb Raider and Cradle of Life. But that's the only way that I would get Cradle of Life, is because it was the same price to buy the double feature as it was to buy the single. So it's like, all right, I'll just pick up both. I'll just get the double disc. Sometimes that's the way to go with things. And like The Godfather.
I do have both on Blu-ray.
Oh, okay. Well, they probably look and sound good on Blu-ray. I got them on DVD.
I won't be watching Cradle of Filth,
Well, the first one, yeah, I think would probably look good on Blu-ray, especially the remake.
The first one was good. The first one was good. I remember that was like one of the very first movies I ever bought on VHS. I was like, and I would watch it over and over and over again, because that's what.
Well, she looked just like the character. I mean, she looked just like the game.
Yeah, she pulled it off.
Yeah.
The new one, just they did like the reboot of the games, and the new one kind of goes more towards the reboot of the game. And she does a really good job of it.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the remake. I don't remember much from it. I remember the airplane scene where she's on the wing and it's kind of tipping. I remember that type of stuff, but I don't remember much of it. So, you know, but it's yeah. I just wish that they would just stop doing stuff like that. And it's so I don't know if that had any sort of influence. Well, I'm guessing it did have influence on Lucas with like Phantom Menace, but we'll get into that because allegedly NSYNC was supposed to be in the movie as some of the pilots.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, like the daughter was really into NSYNC, and I guess it's not all of them. It's only like 2 of them that are in the cockpits of some of the ships at the end. And then his daughter named all the characters, or Count Dooku and Jar Jar Binks were all named from his daughter came up with the names.
Just imagine. Jar Jar Binks could have not have been the worst character in Star Wars. NSYNC could have been.
That's true. Good point. Well, we'll talk about all that on the next video. So that's yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think special edition wise. Empire, we got Wampa. We got more Wampa when Luke was trapped. Did you like that, or did you kind of like not seeing the Wampa?
To be honest with you, I didn't even realize the Wampa was even in there until you showed me the. But then it like jogged my memory. I'm like, oh yeah, the snow monster guy. I didn't know his name at the time, so I'm terrible
Wampa.
with the Star Wars names. I admit it. I am terrible with the names. I mean,
before all of this, my friends were amazed that I could remember Bosk, IG-88. You know, they're just like, John, how do you know all the bounty hunters' names? They didn't do anything except for Boba Fett. Like, they're all toys. That's how I know their names.
I mean, I wasn't around when the toys came out, so I unfortunately missed that part. But I enjoyed the movie, so I feel it's like there's something there.
Yeah, I was never a big fan of them adding stuff to the Wampa cave. I kind of liked that it was off screen and you didn't really see it because Lucas knew that it didn't look good. So it's just like, yeah, we'll just show flashes of it. And to me, that's better than having
kind of
some
more creepier.
Yeah, it's a little scary if you can't see it. And then, but I mean, that's what he wanted to do. And then what else was there? He added in, of course, ships flying back and forth. He added in all this stuff in Cloud City, like extra windows and ships flying around and stuff like that. A lot of the Millennium Falcon flying in Cloud City. He did all that. Yeah, anytime Vader was basically in his shuttle going back and forth, he showed that. So I don't think that there was a ton of stuff in Empire. I think there was a lot more in Star Wars.
I think there was more in Star Wars than there was in the last 2. I mean,
all that stuff.
Even Return of the Jedi didn't even have that much deleted scenes. I mean, it was like some of the stuff some of the deleted scenes was kind of like, I mean, it really didn't matter. Like, we really didn't need it. I mean, it would be cool to have as like, as an extended cut or something, but it doesn't necessarily need it. I think the one that really kind of feels like it should be extended is of course the first one, Star Wars.
Yeah, it would be, and like I said, I don't think it has to be official, but it would be nice to get that extra plot going. That was, that's there, and there's definitely a fair amount of stuff missing. I mean, we all hear, that it took Lucas, like he went over his production time and the film cost more money. And then you see all these deleted scenes and you're like, well, no wonder, it's like, there's like 30 minutes of movie missing. So that,
as a matter of fact, I remember seeing a couple of years ago, someone was, I was watching on YouTube, they actually had released a comic book, and it had what George Lucas originally wanted Star Wars to be, and it was a completely different story than what we got in film. and I have to see if I can find what it was. I have to somehow figure out what video I was watching at the time. But from what I understand, like this was what we got on in the film wasn't actually his original vision. But I mean, you know, with the limitations and stuff, he can only do so much.
Right.
So I guess they took that, he like condensed it down to like a more filmable approach, and then basically made the comic book for those that want to see his original vision of the original Star Wars.
Have you looked at the art of Star Wars and the art of Empire and like the art of Jedi, especially Star Wars? They're long, they're like rectangle shaped, and it's all the art from Ralph McQuarrie. So it's basically, he did it for each film because he knew that the fans liked it. But what it was originally meant for was to show the studio, you know, so he gave them the script and then he gave them these paintings by Ralph McQuarrie. At least I think there's 20 of them in there, and probably like
I'll have to look into that.
Like 18 of them. I think they came out in book form also, but I want to say something like maybe 15 of them aren't even in the movie.
Yeah.
Like Luke looks different. He's like on top of something that looks like a lizard that he's riding in the desert. Darth Vader looks different. Ben is different. Everything is different. Like all these paintings that just Ralph McQuarrie just kind of went off of the original script, not in the movie. Excuse me. And it's fascinating because as a kid, you're going like, what is this? These are awesome looking. So that may be what you're talking about, is these paintings were from that story.
It probably was. I mean, that sounds right. I mean, they said it was I think, as a matter of fact, I think in the video he was saying about the art of Star Wars, but they only did one for A New Hope, or what they just called Star Wars.
Yeah, they were interesting. Yeah, definitely check them out because they come in like a giant envelope. And so it looks just like an envelope, and you pull the back open and you kind of pull them out like they're almost like postcards, but they're long rectangle paintings. I think they're like 11 by 7. Well, I guess this case it'd be 17 by 11 because they're all horizontal. So yeah, they're really cool. So that's probably what you're talking about. And then you also got check them out. There's probably pictures of them if you Google them. If you just say like Star Wars Ralph McQuarrie, probably all, you know, they'll all pop up through Google. And then there's also the radio show that was done for all three. And I know the one for Star Wars, which I got a download of it, is different. There's a lot of difference in those. So I think those were done off of different scripts. I don't think that's done off of the movie script. But of course, they have to alter it to be, you know, for radio. But there's different scenes. So it doesn't matter if they're paintings, if it's the radio, if it's whatever it is. George Lucas has been tinkering with this stuff since the very first year. And it's really amazing to me. The one thing that I do find funny is back in the day when like the novelizations came out, it would say like written by George Lucas. That was never the case. Like Lucas never wrote the novelization. I believe that was Alan Dean Foster who wrote the book. Yeah, but Lucas his name was on it. Like Steven Spielberg, Close Encounters, it says written by Steven Spielberg. And yeah, he wrote the script, but I don't think he had anything to do with the book. That was, you know, like a ghostwriter did that. Ghostwriter. Yeah. Writer, not writer, writer. That's what I'm trying to say. So I mean, after you saw these, were you looking, and we're not going to get into it, but were you really looking forward to the prequels coming out?
Well, like I said, I didn't.
Oh, that's right, because you watched Revenge of the Sith first.
Yes, that was the.
Was that confusing?
Well, I wasn't real. I didn't really like understand it. No, like I didn't know who. What's that dude with the freaking like arms that was collecting all the. I
Oh,
seen him and I was like, who's
oh,
this dude?
Grievous, the one that had like the
Yeah,
three arms with all the lightsabers.
yeah, I was like, who's this dude? What's going on here? Why is he attacking him? What is? I didn't understand any of it.
Well,
But I
see,
mean,
that's
to be expected. It's like I'm in the middle of the story. I didn't get no one or two. So
yeah, I think that that'd be a little hard to follow. I mean, the great thing about Lucas is he was a Hammer fan. So he was a fan of all the Hammer movies. And so you could see, I guess it was Alan Ladd who said no to this, is Lucas wanted Christopher Lee, Peter Cushing in Star Wars. And David Prowse was already in there as Darth Vader. And then, of course, Peter Cushing was Tarkin. And so Alan Ladd said, we're not making a Hammer movie. So Christopher Lee is out. And of course, all this was shot in England with with English crewmen and English actors. That's why in Star Wars, I guess they said that the actors' voices are dubbed in English. Yeah. But when it came to Empire Strikes Back, they all had British accents. They just didn't bother doing it because all these were, for the most part, a lot of this stuff was shot over in England. But Lucas obviously remembered, I wanted Christopher Lee in my movie. And then he ended up being in Attack of the Clones and, Revenge of the Sith as Count Dooku.
Yeah.
So that to me is awesome that he remembered that. And now, Christopher Lee has this legacy of, Dracula back in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And then, Lord of the Rings, and now Star Wars. So he's got these like 3 awesome series that he was in, among many other awesome movies that he was in. I'm sorry, I should show him respect and call him Sir Christopher Lee, which is what his name is. Yeah, he did get knighted. So got to show him respect for that.
Yeah, I did. I forgot all about that actually.
Yeah. He was one of those actors who got knighted, which is pretty awesome. So but it's
and well deserved.
Yes. Yeah, he was one of those. The reason why this is in the Hammer documentary is, and he even admitted to this, that he didn't like playing Dracula that much because he felt that the budgets got lower, the stories got worse, the dialogue got worse. So he wanted Dracula to be more silent. That the only reason why he continued doing the Dracula films is because it gave people jobs. And he felt as one man, if he said, I'm not playing Dracula, and they would cancel the series, it would put hundreds of people out of work. And so he stayed, even though he didn't want to do it, to make sure that people had jobs. And compare that to a lot of people in Hollywood who would rather shut down an entire production than have bad craft service, I mean, it definitely goes to say something for his character. And Peter Cushing was supposed to be great too. And of course, we got the, we could bring up, Rogue One, maybe we'll do those more later, but you do have, the animated Tarkin in Rogue One, and you got that awesome scene of Vader going from the ship to like the little shuttle, just kicking the shit out of everybody. But which is pretty cool.
It's Darth Vader doing what he does best.
Yeah. So somehow even in Rogue One, they still were able to get like two of the Hammer actors back, David Prowse, and then Tarkin was back too. Not the best looking, the was still a little off in its visual effects, but it looked okay. So, what else can you think of? What comes to mind when do you ever sit down and just have marathons and just watch the movies now?
I mean, I definitely am gonna have to do it with the prequel trilogy because as you can see, I'm kind of lacking in my knowledge here. But I'm definitely gonna have to do it with the prequel trilogy. Even though I've watched the prequel trilogy a little more than the original trilogy, I believe. That's pretty bad. I'm sorry. I'm a terrible Star Wars fan.
Well, I guess if you have the DVDs of the prequel series, those are altered from the theatrical ones. But then this is even altered even more.
Yeah.
So the Blu-rays are even different. So even more different.
Those are the ones I have. So
yeah. So which to me are the better ones. I actually think what they added in to the prequels, if they added back into it, is actually better than the theatrical versions.
you didn't like Puppet Yoda?
I thought it was unnecessary to change it. I like Puppet Yoda. Yeah, because that's something that we were very happy about. Because we knew Frank Oz was down there with his hand up his butt. And that was Frank Oz down there underneath that chair and giving him that hand job or whatever, you know. And yeah, it was kind of disappointing seeing him as, you know,
well,
as
I think
CGI.
well, I'm not sure. I think in the Blu-rays they digitize, and the one you have there, I think you digitize.
Yeah, he's all digital. That video that I watched showed the comparisons. I think there's like 3 different versions of that, and it shows him as the puppet walking and in the chair. Then it shows him as the CGI puppet, you know, CGI walking in the chair, and then I think it might show one more. It might only show 2, but there could be 3 comparisons that they do. So
at least we can give Disney a little bit of credit for putting the puppet back in when they brought Ghost Yoda.
That's I give them credit for that.
Much credit, but that's about it.
Well, and I give you know, was it Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau? I give them credit for that.
Yeah.
So Dave was George's protege, and he's been around for a long time. I mean, he's the guy who created the Clone Wars, and then he also created Rebels. And then I guess he brought it back, but didn't have a lot to do with it when it came back on Disney Channel again for like a 7th season. But then I want to watch the Clone Wars now, because from what
I do want to see it. I just haven't. I was terrible with TV shows for the longest time. I just never had the chance to really like sit down and watch it.
It takes time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sad that they didn't make a series out of the holiday special. I mean, Life Day, a whole series about Life Day on Planet Wookiee. You didn't make it through it? You said did you even did you try?
I tried. I kind of checked out when I guess what is it? It was like the little baby Wookiee and the grandpa Wookiee are arguing back and forth. I'm like, what?
It's so bad. They're in a tree and they even have carpet, like shag carpet. It's so 70s. And I don't know what the hell Mark Hamill was doing. He looked like a girl. It's like, why is female Luke Skywalker there? Like, what was wrong with him? I know between Star Wars and Empire, he had like a really bad car crash. That was the whole reason for the Wookiee. I'm sorry, for the Wampa hitting him in the face, is that he got into like a bad car crash where they thought he was going to die. And he had to have reconstructive surgery on his face, which is why he looks so different from one film to the other. So that whole Wampa scene explained why his face looked like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know if when Holiday Special was made to when that car crash happened, because he looked like a little girl. And it's just like, why doesn't look like Luke? So maybe they tried to give him the Luke hairstyle with the new face, and it just came out weird.
I didn't even know that he was in a bad car crash. I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
My uncle, which is after Star Wars, when Hamill was riding that high, he did a movie called Corvette Summer. And my uncle was very big into Corvettes, and he actually worked on that film. So they had these kind of souped up Corvettes, and I forget exactly what the story is. Like it's one Corvette, but they had like 5 of them on set to do different things. One would go fast, one would go slow, one would do stunts, that type of thing. And my uncle worked on those Corvettes. So he actually worked on a film with Mark Hamill. Excuse me. So I'm dying. I think George Lucas is doing the force on me for bringing up holiday special stuff. Now, here's another funny thing. Here's another 6 degrees. The band that is in the holiday special, Jefferson Starship, Grace Slick was the female singer in that. So it was, Jefferson Airplane in the 60s. In the 70s, it was Jefferson Airplane. And then in the 80s, it was Starship. So she stayed through the whole thing. And my mother was her off-the-road hairdresser. So whenever she wasn't touring and she wanted her hair done, she would go to my mother because my mother was a beautician. And then I went to school with her daughter. So I, who went to school with Grace Slick's daughter is great. The daughter is Grace Slick's daughter. My mother did Grace Slick's hair. I am my mother's son. So they were in the Star Wars holiday special. I know I kind of mangled that, but I'm trying to do like a 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon with it. But it's so I'm oddly linked to the Star Wars holiday special. So I guess it would be Grace Slick.
You personally knew an actor from the holiday special. Yeah,
I actually never met Grace Slick, but I did know her daughter. So, not very well, but I went to school with her and, parties and stuff like that. So, it's kind of like my claim to fame is I used to go to school with Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and partied with him in high school. So, that's another one of those, weird things that he was political in high school and then he became the governor of California. So, but that's a whole different video on what people think of Gavin Newsom. That holiday special, you could tell Harrison Ford was just doing a favor. I don't think he was under contract to do that. I think that he was just probably riding the high and George asked him and
there for a check.
Yeah. He probably got some money out of it and just had to go and be there for a day. Carrie Fisher sings in it. So you probably didn't get that far. I think she has 2 songs. A lot of these people, I don't think somebody your age would even know who they are. Like maybe like Jefferson Starship or Harvey Korman, who's in there. Maude is in there, who's also in Golden Girls later on. There's actually, and the one thing you missed, and you should go back and watch it, just scan through it, is the animated Boba Fett cartoon. It's the first appearance of Boba Fett.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's where we were introduced.
I want to check it out. I definitely want to watch it. I just gotta be in the.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it. Go scan through it. It's about halfway through. I think it's maybe 10 minutes, and it's Boba Fett on kind of like this lizard thing, I think. And I don't know if you know who Ralph Bakshi is, but he did like the original Lord of the Rings animated movie. He did Wizards. So Boba Fett looks like something that came out of that world and out of especially out of Wizards, which is a great animated movie if you've never seen it. I have it on Blu-ray. It looks beautiful. Really missed it.
I actually do have the Lord of the Rings cartoon on Blu-ray. So
yeah. So okay. So that's the type of animation that Boba Fett kind of looks like. And and it's kind of cool because going back to that big box, that empty box, the very first one that you got was Boba Fett. So if you bought Boba Fett, no, you would send in for Boba Fett, and then they would send you Boba Fett, and that would be the first figure that went into the box.
Okay.
So that was exciting because Empire hadn't come out yet. So it's like, who's this guy? Who's Boba Fett? And we only knew him as the cartoon from the holiday special. But it's like, oh my God, if this guy's in there, and he even had like his rocket pack and all of that stuff. Nice. And so that was really cool because that was still, obviously years before Empire came out.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. What do you think about the soundtracks to the first three? Do you like John Williams?
Music is great. I mean, come on. You cannot think Star Wars without hearing that theme song. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just iconic. And his whole score. I mean, you hear Darth Vader's theme. I mean, to be honest with you, funny story. I had that as my wife's ringtone.
I mean, yeah, you got to love the Imperial March, which is that dun 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 dun. You got to love, I think I even had that as my ringtone for a little bit. Now I have Godzilla, but yeah, every one of those, including Jedi with the Ewoks singing at the end, "Uka uka kami pop." I'm messing it up, but that's the basic idea, and which was very silly, but it's they're all three really good soundtracks, and I found downloads for the story of Star Wars, story of Empire, story of Jedi, and from time to time, because they're just MP3 files, I throw them on a thumb drive and I listen to them in my car when I drive to LA. So it's kind of fun re-listening to those, for 45 minutes, or whatever it is, 50 minutes.
I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the whole score. I mean, I would love to have like an official soundtrack for the original. I mean, really any of them. I mean, even the prequel trilogy, even the Disney one. The music's good. I mean, I like the music in almost all the Star Wars.
Well, yeah, especially, and Williams had even made a comment, John Williams, he said that he hopes, because he's old, he's like, I hope I make it through all the movies. I think at the time he was saying, I hope I make it through the prequels. And then they had him come back for the Disney sequels. And then now he's like really old. I think the guy's like, God, he's got to be in his 80s, 90s now. And he's still kicking away. So yeah, I have a load of downloaded soundtracks from him, because he's one of my favorite composers, and he was one of the last guys to do themes. Like, we don't get themes anymore, like I really think outside of John Williams, I think the Tim Burton Batman is the last one to really have a theme for a character. Like, if you heard that Batman theme, you would know it's Tim Burton's Batman.
Yeah.
But past that, there's like Jurassic Park that Williams did. You would know that. That's no. But he's like one of the last guys to really do themes. It's really unfortunate that these composers just don't do themes anymore. Rocky had a theme. That wasn't John Williams, but back in the day, everybody had a theme.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. I mean, that was what made it iconic. I mean, you hear. Going back to the audiobooks, even the novels that I read, I used to listen to some of the audiobooks, and they would always start off the novel as "A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away," and then you would hear the Star Wars theme, like before they even started prologue, and it's
you get a big grin.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I can understand, like somebody saying like they love the prequels because that's the first one they saw. Like they were the same age I was when they saw the prequels. When I saw the originals, that's when they saw. So I get that. And I understand maybe the same thing with the Disney ones. I don't know. But I kind of get that, is that each kind of Star Wars generation person gets that, because you can't help, even in the Disney ones, when that Star Wars theme comes on and you see that it says Star Wars and you get the crawl, and you have to smile. It makes you happy. It's just a great theme.
It's iconic.
Yeah. And it's been, parodied many times too. I mean, I was happy that I got to see John Williams live on stage with two of my friends, and like C-3PO came out, R2-D2 came out, maybe some guy dressed as Darth Vader came out, but I know the droids were there. And he played everything in his career up to then. So, I mean, it was, you know, back in his TV days with like Lost in Space and all that stuff. And then he, you know, Jaws, and, you know, he even did a great soundtrack for Jaws 2, which I kind of like better than Jaws 1 in some ways.
Oh, I didn't know he did Lost in Space.
Yeah, yeah. Well, he was Johnny Williams back then.
Okay.
So like the 60s, I think it was Johnny Williams. And then he changed it 70s to John Williams.
Yeah.
But he's definitely one of the best. So,
yeah.
Well, should we start to wrap this up? Anything else you would like to say about the original trilogy?
No, I mean, they're classics. They're good. They're good.
Do you recommend the original trilogy, even if it's the special edition?
Yes, I do. I recommend them. I mean, I think anyone can get a kick out of them. I mean, even if you didn't grow up with Star Wars, I mean, you know Star Wars. I mean, it's a what's the word I'm looking for? Like I'm blanking on the word I want to say. It's an icon. So, I mean, if you haven't seen Star Wars, are you living under a rock? Go see Star Wars. Go watch it.
What do you think about people who say they've never seen Star Wars, like any version of Star Wars? Like they know what it is, but they've just never seen it. Are they missing out?
What are you doing? Go watch them.
So that's
the only thing I can think. Like, hey, you know, go watch them. You won't be disappointed.
Even if it's the special editions.
Even
as long as you see Star Wars.
As long as you see Star Wars.
That's all that counts.
That's all it counts. I mean, what do you think?
I think everybody should see the original trilogy. I would try to find a friend that maybe has these other versions, like your VHS or my Laserdisc, to watch those. If they can't, then yeah, I guess watching the special editions is fine. As you know, it's just you should see it. You know, yeah. Like if you could only see the ET version with walkie-talkies, I guess watch that. You know, if you can't find the original, but I think it does take away.
To be quite honest, I was never the biggest fan of ET. Oh man. I like Blade Runner better.
Well, they're very okay. Here, the comparison would actually be E.T. and John Carpenter's The Thing. They came out the same year, 1982. Okay. One film was hopeful and bright, and the audience embraced it and loved it. The other one was dark as hell and was about the end of the world, and the audience hated it.
Well, here's the reason why I said E.T. was the whole reason that Blade Runner basically flopped, because everyone wanted to go see E.T. Yeah. So.
Okay. All right. I love Blade Runner.
The sequel.
Oh, I love the sequel. I love that director too.
I didn't care. I didn't care for the sequel.
Yeah. Now here's a question. Did you know that there's a spinoff, like a quasi spinoff to Blade Runner?
I've heard something like that, but I'm not 100%.
Paul W.S. Anderson, who did the Resident Evil movies, married to my love, Mila, made a film called Soldier with Kurt Russell. Kurt Russell they consider him to be defective. He's supposed to be like the perfect soldier. And they drop him on a junk planet. At one point in the junk, there is a speeder from Blade Runner.
Oh,
Not speeder, I'm sorry, spinner. The spinner ship is in the junk. And it has been confirmed that Soldier is, and I think they even mention like the planet that the replicants were on in Soldier. So it has been confirmed that Soldier is like an unofficial spin-off of Blade Runner.
Okay.
So and it's a good movie too. Yeah, it's a good film.
I'll definitely have to check this out.
Yeah, it was like right after I think Kurt Russell did like Tombstone, so he was like big at that time. Maybe like a year after Tombstone, somewhere in there. But all right, well let's wrap this up then. So final words.
Star Wars.
2 thumbs up.
2 thumbs up.
That's copyrighted, by the way. Please don't sue us, ghost versions of Siskel and Ebert. My final words would be definitely check out the original Star Wars. I guess in whatever way you can, whatever format you can, whatever version you can. You need to have it at least. You need to see it at least once, so you also get all the jokes. I mean, how many? I mean, Family Guy has a whole series of Star Wars, movies. Robot Chicken has done endless spoofs on them, and unless you watch the original films, I think you're missing out on a lot of great spoofs and ripoffs and all that stuff. Just like Alien has all of its ripoffs, you kind of need to see Alien first to get all the ripoffs. So you need to see the original Star Wars movies to get all those jokes. And Warwick Davis was one of the one of the Ewoks. So he was our lead Ewok, and then he became the Leprechaun in the Leprechaun series.
Oh yeah, he did.
Yeah. So thanks to Star Wars, thanks to Jedi, he became the Leprechaun who wants his gold and never seems to get it because there's been like 8 movies. So, all right, everybody, we're going to wrap this up now. This actually went on a lot longer than I thought it would. So that's a good thing because we talked about a lot of stuff, a lot of good stuff. So, all right, everybody, thank you very much for tuning in to the very first episode of Film Discussion. I really appreciate it. And we'll figure out more things to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about, I don't know, peaches and cans on one episode. Like maybe we'll find out a canned fruit that we like and we'll just discuss it. So, we can discuss anything we want. It's film discussion. As long as it's in a film, we can talk about it. I don't think Donald agrees.
What film are we talking about?
I guess just any film with canned peaches. But okay, everybody. So now we're or at least I'm rambling. So all right. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, Donald. I really appreciate it. Thank you for asking me to be part of this. So I enjoyed our conversation. And we will see you on the next one where we will talk about the Star Wars prequels and Natalie Portman's midriff on her cutoff shirt there. So best thing in Attack of the Clones. I can't wait to talk.
Calm down, John. Calm down.
I can't wait to talk about her midriff. So belly shirt. That's what I'm trying to think of. Natalie Portman and her belly shirt, which was so obviously intentional. It's embarrassing, but she looked great. So she's a very beautiful woman. All right. Goodbye, everybody. We'll see you on the next one. Getting carried away here. Yeah. Bye. Bye, everybody. Bye. Hey, everybody. Thanks for hanging out after the video. And thank you for watching the very first Dark Park Films sponsored video. And who is that sponsor? Well, I've now learned if I do this with my hands, they go to the right area. There we go. That would be Wildlife Command Center Coffee, and you can purchase it right there. You can go to their website, which is buyWCC.com, and pick up their coffee. They have 2 blends, which I'm going to show you now. The first coffee is this one right here. This is a breakfast blend. It's 10 ounces, and it is a medium ground. And it does say, and it's breakfast, like I said, and this is what it says right here. It says, early bird can catch the worm. So there you go, a breakfast blend coffee that helps you catch the worm in the morning. And I really like this one. I'm more of a breakfast kind of blend coffee guy in the morning. So this one I really like. It has that little bit of oomph to it to kind of get you moving, get you up and out. And so I really enjoy this one. But that doesn't mean that I don't like the other one, which is this one right here. This is a dark roast. It is also 10 ounces. And both of these are $7.99 at their website. Pretty good price for 10 ounces worth of ground coffee. This one is, it's a little darker. So it's, I think it's better for drinking at night. Maybe if you're, writing a screenplay or if you're filming, this has got that oomph, that double punch to get you going. So this is one that I also recommend. I like both of these quite a bit, but I kind of do, the breakfast in the morning and then the dark more at night. So I recommend both of these quite a bit. And how did I find out about these two, these two coffees here? And how did I find out about Wildlife Command Center? Well, when I was working on Night of the Zomghouls, there was a box of coffee that was just sitting there filled with coffee. And we didn't know what to do with it. Like, whose is this? Who brought it? Why is it here? And so we just kept going to the store and buying coffee. And then one day I said, why don't we just get the coffee out of the box and use that instead of, wasting money on going to Smith's or whatever and picking up coffee. So we did. We did not realize that it was the Wildlife Command Center coffee and that it, was sponsoring the movie. And it was great coffee. Everybody loved it. And we just went right through it. By the last day of filming, this coffee was gone. And I went and found out, about Wildlife Command Center, asked if they would like to be a sponsor for Dark Park Films, for their coffee. As many of you know, I love coffee. I love coffee mugs. And so this was a perfect match. And Wildlife Command Center is great with animals. So they provide a great service for rescuing animals. So it's kind of that double whammy for me, where coffee, helping animals, you can't go wrong. And they were even cool enough to send me, get in there, a coffee mug, because they knew that I liked coffee mugs. And right now, I don't get that. That a little bit. I'm going to go on the keyboard, but that's their dark blend, because I'm recording this at night. So I am actually drinking that while recording. Also, one thing that you can get at their website, which is cool, is you can get this. There you go. This pocket knife, which is $9.49. And this is pretty cool because it has their name on it. Wildlife Command Center, we can catch it. And this is what it looks like. Put that down there. There we go. Fully out. So you're getting like the bottle opener, you got the corkscrew, you got a screwdriver, you got a blade, and then you got this little hook thing that you can pop it into something that doesn't have a tab, and then the liquid or whatever in there will come out. So this is pretty cool. And I'm just going to keep mine in my car, because you never know. You might need a pocket knife. So please support them. I'm going to have links down below, where you can, check out just the Wildlife Command Center. I'll also have a link for Wildlife Command Center coffee, and it will basically be for both these guys right here. And please support them. I support them. I think what they do is pretty awesome. And maybe this coffee will be on your set or in your kitchen. It will definitely be, on my set in my kitchen. I know that. So please, once again, I'm going to show you these. Please go to their website and pick up their coffee and make it part of your day or night, depending on which one you like. So that'll be about it. I really appreciate it. Thanks for hanging out with me. And yeah, So thank you. And once again, please support my channel. Please support the Wildlife Command Center. And I will catch you later. Bye.